Lesson 3, taxiing to the hangar. So you've practiced some landings, and it's time to put the plane to bed. At this point, you would have landed and slowed to a running pace, then exited on taxiway Foxtrot or something. In fact, the tower would have advised that as you touch down. You'd hear them say, Golf November Juliet, taxi Foxtrot 1217 off. Wait a second, say that a little slower, because they do say it fast, even faster than that. So they said my call sign told me which taxiway to get off on, and then the actual frequency of the ground. Isn't that cool? All in one quick sentence. Golf November Juliet, taxi Foxtrot 1217 off, meaning to exit on taxiway Foxtrot, change your radio frequency to the ground controller on 121.7. If you are slow enough on your approach and you landed on the numbers, meaning right on or near the runway numbers, then you would be slow enough or even give some power to taxi up to Foxtrot. If you came in too fast and too high, but eventually landed, you might not make Foxtrot to exit, and you have to brake hard and keep from falling off the other end of the runway. This has happened. Take a look at this. Now, this isn't our airport, but it's similar with water after the runways. This plane was not only fast, but had wind behind them, and the airport workers knew it. The fact is, at what point did the pilot make the mistake? Not calling ATIS to get the active runway, using instrument approach when the wind was clearly behind them. So let's keep it slow and controlled and always into wind. We want to fly another day. You can see the whole YouTube video by searching for this URL. So there you are, sitting on taxiway Foxtrot with the engine idling, and you are stopped. Let's execute our clear of active runway checklist. You can see what they're doing in the checklist. Cleaning up the airplane, raising the flaps to their normal position, turning your landing light off, and even turning your taxi light on if you're at night. Setting your radio to the ground frequency and letting it chatter while you do the rest of your checklist. You will get a feel for the conversations before you jump in with your request to taxi back. The ground controller knows you are there and is expecting your call any second. Also note your time down on your knee pad, where you noted the time off. You need this for your logbook, and I hope you're keeping a logbook as we go along. Now make your call to the ground controller. City ground, this is Golf November Juliet, taxi to hangar. Their reply should be, Golf November Juliet, taxi to hangar. And you acknowledge with simply Golf November Juliet. They might give you specific taxiways to use. But we're on Foxtrot. We can actually go straight in. It's one of the reasons they designed this taxiway, right in the middle, heading straight for the apron. It's a taxi to the apron or taxi to the hangar. All right? This isn't a clearance to land or take off, so you don't have to repeat it back. But if it's a complicated taxi or it's not very clear, repeat it back on acknowledgement. Or, just, you could even say, please say again. City ground, this is Golf November Juliet, please say again. Or even, please speak slower if need be. Sometimes they just rattle it right through. Once you are cleared, time to move. They want that taxiway for the next landing aircraft. Follow the yellow taxi lines if you can, but it's not compulsory. Airliners have to follow them. Larger planes have to follow them to keep their wheels and their wings to the taxiway. We have lots of leeway with our 172s. Once you arrive where you'll turn off the plane, it's time to execute the shutdown checklist. You'll notice the purpose is to get the engine turned off and record the Hobbs time near where you recorded it before. You're going to record it where you at first recorded it during engine start. But there are other checks you need to do before walking away from the airplane. You'll notice that there's the ELT check 1215. Your emergency locator transmitter has an automatic switch that would activate on impact in case of a crash landing. This emits an emergency signal that SAR, Search and Rescue, can use to find you. They are simply checking that your last hard landing didn't trigger it. You're making sure that your ELT isn't transmitting. That's all you're doing. So you're doing a check for your ELT on 1215. if you hear something, you got to report it. Well, I would turn around and turn it off, and then maybe report it. But believe it or not, and in student classes, your last hard landing might have triggered it. It might have thought it was a crash. We've seen a few of those landings in students. If we hear nothing on this frequency, we're good. If we do hear something, we need to call the tower and tell them, and then try and turn it off. So this is serious stuff, and it could scramble the search and rescue operation. So let's just check the frequency. And then we can hit the avionics power switch off and focus on the engine. Next, throttle to idle. Pull the mixture knob all the way out. This will lean the engine gas and actually deprive the engine of any gas so that it quits. This is the normal way to stop the engine. This is also a simpler checklist. It's also safer, as we'll learn later. In the intermediate course, we do a mag check, but not till then. Right? So the mixture knob is the outside knob on the CH yoke, and you pull it toward your chest. When the checklist says out, it means out from the panel wall. Now that the engine has stopped and the avionics are off, we can turn the master and alt switches off. Finally, now we can turn the key, like a car, to the off position and remove the keys. Finally, we record the Hobbs time, as I mentioned already. If you record your Hobbs time above the starting Hobbs time, you can do a simple math calculation to determine the time. Remember, it's in tenths of a second, which makes it easy for calculations. This meter is on the tachometer, remember? And it starts when the engine starts. So we take our keys and our flight bag and go into the flight school to pay for our flight. The plane is ready for the next student pilot to approach for their lesson.